Welcome to an impromptu roundtable. We got Sam, myself, and Dave on. And as of yesterday, all of our APU members have been notified that the current federation that we all compete in, the APU, has de-affiliated with the International Powerlifting Federation, the IPF, as of effective of the 31st of December 2023. So by the end of this year, the APU will be de-affiliated, meaning no current international pathway going into 2024 as of right now. I believe the news is still very fresh, so given the information we have at the moment, it is quite limited. However, given the platform that we have, I think it's worth us boys talking about it and sharing it, and I guess listening to the concerns that a lot of our members would have, right? So, I mean, as of right now, all we know is that as of next year, there will be no IPF affiliation. But up until that time, there will still be international competitions, i.e. Asian championships running, and the current state championships that we hold right up until the end of this year. So we have New South Wales junior states, as well as South Australia states in early 2024. I believe those are still going to be going through. However, we're not going to be sure of what's going to happen at nationals as well as all the repercussions that this de-affiliation is going to have on membership. Right. So, yeah. Sam, Dave, do you guys want to jump in, kind of talk about thoughts? Yeah.
I guess, in the immediate short term, I guess the biggest concern would be for those athletes that are still yet to complete their state championships, and where their mindset and headspace is at heading into their last few final weeks of preparation. So probably the biggest one would be Perth States in WA State, in 2 weeks, and then those athletes that were going to Asians as well. I guess the biggest thing, on that note, would be for those athletes. Obviously the news is really frustrating and disappointing and upsetting, but for now the biggest thing they can control is just keep going full steam ahead and keep soldiering on and finishing off your prep, because I'm assuming that they've all put a lot of work and time and effort into their training heading to that state championships with the hope to go into nationals. And for now, I guess you can't really control anything else apart from finishing off your preparation, hitting the platform and doing your best you can. And then we'll just see how the rest of this kind of news plays out.
Yeah, I think, I guess a lot of the concern is what's next, but considering that there are still competitions on this calendar that people still are prepping for, as of recording right now, New South Wales junior states, a couple of people that I coach for that, everyone's about that at that 3-4 week mark, which is around that peaking time, right? So obviously have that conversation with your coach about what the progression plan is, but know that the news is still very fresh, right? So there is no hard set progression plan as of right now. So all you can really focus on is just this one meet, and as emotional and tilting as it is, you can still have a good meet in this final one before a new structure comes up.
Yeah, and I just on social media over the last 12 hours, there's been a lot of, oh, I guess I don't need to do this, or I guess I don't need to do this anymore, and kind of just being upset about it. And yeah, exactly right, you just got to finish your prep off. And I guess the biggest thing would be there is going to be a pathway. So no matter how that looks, and I'm not sure what the setup's going to look like, but there's definitely going to be an option where you can use that competition total that you're about to hit at states, or that you just hit at your Queensland or New South Wales states, as a segue for whatever the new system's going to look like. I'm sure there'll be options where you can use those competition results to keep moving forward in your training as if you normally would to an APU nationals. So that's just all the stuff that's up in the air at the moment. But I guess the biggest thing is that there is going to be systems and pathways set up for those athletes that wanted to keep going the IPF route.
Yeah, I think Sam, you were around when it was like 2017, so this is I guess not new to you where there's been a split, right? So I think maybe you and I can both agree that this one feels a bit different, where it's like we've kind of gone through it again, except it doesn't feel as devastating considering that it's not we're not left completely dissolved and being forced to build it up from the ground up again. This time around, I think there's been infrastructure where we can see improvement, as well as there's good people in this community that are willing to put their hand up and help out.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really good point. Like, yes, it is, devastating, and the way it kind of all just happened in the blink of an eye is really upsetting. But this time it does feel a little bit different in the sense that, I feel like the community of Australian powerlifting within APU that we had is very quite tight knit, because we were all very happy to be together again, I guess would be the easiest way to describe it. And I feel like we can all really bound together and take that to make a solution quicker than back in 2017, 2018, where there was this huge divide. I guess that's probably my biggest concern as well, and why it is so upsetting is because I feel like we finally had come together again, and that took 4 or 5 years, especially thinking back to last year's nationals. Like, that was the first time in my kind of 7-8 years of competing that it felt like we were all together again, in terms of that kind of drug tested Australian powerlifting community. Like, there was old PA faces, there was new faces, and it felt really good. So I guess my biggest concern right now would be having a divide like that again, where we all of a sudden have this big split and everyone else goes off to USAPL, APL, CAPO, and all these other federations, and it takes time to get back to where we just were. That would be my biggest concern, and probably what is upsetting the most.
Yeah, I think given I've kind of been looking at how quickly, because I guess now our most recent example that we've got where this happened would have been USAPL, PLA. It's a weird conversation that we're having right now, where it's like, man, we're back in this spot again. But they were able to, I guess, build infrastructure and systems around it again in such a short period of time, where there was still that pathway. And despite because I think majority of people were coming from USAPL, and it was a well trusted brand, and there was that, I guess, marketing element to it. This time around, I believe more of the membership is more willing to see the alternative, right? So I think it's up to people to just be patient, see what the alternatives are as we start getting more news, because this is still very fresh to everyone, right? Like, we don't know what's going to happen 2 weeks from now, a month from now, by next year. But I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, right, is like we've touched on, we've done it before. We're just going to do it again. Like, it does suck, but everyone who's been around for a while, who went through the initial PA split, we came out on the other side just fine. And like Sam mentioned, last year was great. It took us a while, but we sort of, we got there in the end, kind of thing. So I think it'll be not a non-issue, but I think it'll be a lot easier than people are making it out to be, because the amount of messages that I've gotten in the last 24 hours, or 12 hours rather, has been a ton. People freaking out, or being like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And to me, it doesn't mean a whole lot. Like, we're only at States. Nationals are still 3-ish months away, maybe more. And then Worlds is still, 7 months away? It's a whole lot of time for things to sort of, regather themselves. And we have no idea what it looks like for a new pathway, whether that means new federation, or someone else affiliates, or people just apply for individual access. I forget what the actual route looks like, but you can apply to the IPF as an individual, and you can get given I forget what the terminology is, but that's like a temporary or like a
Like
limited
provisional.
membership. Yeah, provisional membership, right, to the IPF. And then you can go and compete still. So whether that looks like everyone still just does APU nationals, even though there's no pathway, and then everyone applies for a provisional IPF membership, and then if you're the strongest in the weight class, you still go. So there's going to be pathways still. We don't know what it looks like yet, whether it is the individual route through provisional or a new federation or whatever it is. Maybe someone else picks up the slack and, you know, jumps on board, who knows? But to me, I think it's still going to go ahead just fine. I know that from the outside, it looks like Gaston and IPF really want as many countries as they can at Worlds, because they want to have, you know, these huge events. One, for like the whole like Olympic side of things, but two, for just the fact that the more representation, the better at such a big competition. So they're going to want the Australian people, you know, turning up to the competitions, especially since we had like a pretty decent showing this year with people like Vicky and Nat Bubs, you know, being like, oh, wow, okay, so Vicky was top 5, Nat Bubs, same thing, big deadlift. Like, we're starting to get put on the map little by little. So I think there's going to be a pathway there if you want it and if you were able to qualify for it. It's just going to look a little bit different to what it was in the past.
Yeah. And I guess like for those world athlete, everyone has their coaches. So as more info comes out, like they will have their options, right? But for those that we coach, those that are at that local state level competition, there are those alternatives, right? Like currently there is USAPL, pending how, I guess, eager people are to want to compete right now. But like Dave said, if you were a part of APU, there still is like such a long time provisionally where it was meant to be until Nats, right? Because that was meant to be either in February for the Opens or April until juniors, right? Pending how the future unfolds, there might still be something that's similar, but we won't know, right? But as long as you kind of like keep calm and know that and have faith that something's going to pop up, I think that's the best way we can do it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where my concern sits with more, just because obviously these things take time, right? Like they take time to, you know, set up these new pathways and get all these things organized. So like, yeah, when you said it depends on how eager people are, like, you know, I guess if there's this timeline now where people are kind of sitting and waiting and then they go, oh no, let's just get some comps in, and they start going into these other federations, APL and USAPL, then I think that's when there can that be that split again where people just start competing in another fed and they start enjoying it and then they just stick there. But I think yeah, the biggest thing is if us as coaches, you know, with our clients, but also just if you're listening, like as an athlete yourself, if you just kind of still train as if you were training towards that, you know, rough February timeline, you know, with your coach or with your training program, still, you know, keep things pretty normal in terms of your overall plan of where you wanted to head. And then I guess, yeah, let's just over the next kind of few weeks, days, month or two, to see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. I think we'll close things out there just because, like, in terms of actual factual information we have, it is very limited. But we did want to just jump on, provide a little bit of a bit of comfort and thought as coaches who do see a lot of reactions of people that we work with, right? And the general consensus is a lot of panic right now, a lot of confusion. So if we could kind of minimize that and I guess make a more rational decision when the time comes and more info comes. But yeah, thanks guys for listening. What else is there to say? Not really stay safe out there, but I mean, keep your head on your body, stay calm.
It's all going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. All right, thanks guys.